Good evening, everyone. Hey, it's Gina, and on sorry, I knew I was going to mess that up. On tonight's live, I just said that to Robert too. I said, I know I'm going to get on here and mess up, and sure enough, I did. But anyway, good evening, everyone. I am Gina, and on this episode of Healing Strategies, we have the honor of having Robert. Robert is a trauma survivor, among some other titles and things that he has. And I am so honored to have him here. As you notice over the last couple of weeks, we have welcomed more gentlemen onto our live, and I'm so blessed and honored to get to know all of them. It takes a lot of courage for them to step out, a lot of vulnerability for them to step out, and just to be open and honest and be transparent about their journey. It's not always easy. For a male perspective, to kind of get out there and share their story and things like that. So I'm so thankful for Robert. I was so thankful for Jeremiah. He was on, my husband, Charles. And I'm hoping that as more men come out and speak, that more men will, more men will speak up and speak out about maybe some of the things that they are dealing with. And so again, we welcome you here this evening. And let me kind of give you a little bit of backstory, why we do what we do. And then we will officially get started with Robert kind of sharing a little bit of his story and, and things like that. It'll go transition beautifully. So here at, I don't even really have a name that I call this. I think I just call it Healing Strategies. And I'm very truthful, very open, very honest. And sometimes that comes back to bite me in the butt, and that's okay, because I want people to know the truth. And if you know me, that's what I bring to the table. I bring a lot of truth and a lot of knowledge. And so as going through my own personal journey, what I learned is that a lot of people are trained and conditioned. And so I believe that in my own personal journey, so I'm speaking from my own personal experience, that hindered a lot of the things that I had to go through. A lot of my healing, it was hindered. And so as I transitioned into trauma recovery, there are other healing modalities, whether it's God, the universe, whatever you believe in, but I believe it's God. God has put a lot of practical people into our network, into our circle. And all of these practical people are like Robert and I. And we bring healing modalities in what's called the side door approach. Good evening, Michael. And so what that means is, in addition to your coaching or your therapy, whatever you're doing, there needs to be some other type of healing modality, healing strategy to help with the trauma that becomes trapped in the, it's been a long day, the cells, on the cellular level. So that is another reason that I do this. It kind of gives you an idea of some of the different healing strategies, the different healing modalities that that all of our guests offer. And so it kind of goes side to side and hand in hand on your recovery and things like that too. So now that I'm kind of rambling on, it's like, oh, okay. So again, I have the honor to have Robert. Robert, I met him. I don't know how long ago it's been, but I originally met him in some of our supervision classes. And then I've got to meet him a little bit more. Robert will be a speaker at our 2024 Rise Up from Trauma, Breaking the Silence on Trauma, our global summit in October. So again, I get the honor and privilege to stand beside him as he will be one of our presenters at that event as well. So if you'll give the opportunity and the honor and privilege, I would like to welcome Robert. So thank you so much for being here.
Gina, thank you for the lead in. I greatly appreciate it. And good evening to everybody. It's great to be here. Greetings of peace and love from Raleigh, North Carolina. My name is Robert. I'm a survivor. And if it wasn't for the source of my being, I would not be here before you today. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, to a working class family in the mid 1950s. And I was brought up in a family where my stepfather was a professional domestic terrorist. So there was a lot of stuff going on in my family that made me feel like I was out of place, made me feel like I didn't belong. Um, so the way I ended up with a stepfather is the fact that my mom divorced my natural father when I was about 2 years old, and I went to live with my grandmother. So I was with my grandmother and my uncles, and then about 4 years old, 4.5 years old, I went back to my basically my family, which was my family of origin, and the way I was brought up was very rough. And um, some children talk about the fact, or when they reflect upon their childhood, they say, I was smacked around, and I was punched around, and I was kicked in my pants, and I had all this kind of physical abuse. But the abuse that I basically was, um, I guess whatever was dished up to me was more of the emotional and the negligent side of it. It was basically that I didn't belong there. And maybe it's because, I was in a family where it was a stepfather, and then, my mom and this fella, uh, sometimes I don't know what to call him. They had another child, which is
Okay.
my brother, and he went through his own stuff in his own way. But what happened was, before I went to stay with my grandmother, my mom actually abandoned me with my dad, with my biological father. And he didn't know what to do with me. So basically, I was shuffled off to my grandmother. And I always felt like I've been shuffled off my whole life. Never had attention at home. I feel like I was quite a bright kid. They told me in school that I was smart, but I would struggle with my schoolwork. And I think the reason that I had some problem with my focus and following through on written, especially written assignments, was the fact that many a night where I'd be trying to do my homework at the kitchen table, my stepfather was using my mom as a punching bag in the other room, and I
Oh,
could hear the bodies banging against the wall, and you know.
oh,
So there was a period of time where I was in therapy, and I was trying to deal with, why can't I sit down and do paperwork? Why can't I just take care of my taxes? Why can't I balance my checkbook? So it was suggested to me that, when I was doing any kind of writing or anything, that I don't sit down, because it felt like I was kind of like in this space where I was held hostage or captive in that space. So I used to do everything standing up. So I was a class clown. Of course, I didn't get attention at home. I tried to get it in school, and I spent many an afternoon in the principal's office. And my mom used to come in, and the principal used to say, Mr. Emmer was his name. You said, I don't know what's wrong with Robert. He's such a bright kid, but we don't know why he's so disruptive. So this is back in the early '60s. And sometimes my mom had to go to school and put heavy makeup on because she had bruises and black eyes and stuff like that, and nobody said anything. So it was basically,
oh,
whatever happens at home stays at home. But there was
right.
something that was inside me that was screaming to get out. There was something that wanted to express, I guess, my human essence, my energy, my creativity. Um, and then there was some struggles that had taken place between myself and my, I guess I call him my half brother or my step brother. We were brothers because we lived together, but our personalities were like night and day. I guess having a different father, having different DNA, and I think the way I believe is that, the spirit that comes into the body comes from different directions, and I think that my purpose in life was a lot different than my brothers, and definitely a lot different than my family of origin. Um, I'll tell you a story, and you might find this funny. Um, to show you how wanting I was, and how my obsessive compulsive behavior started to develop at a young age. We were Roman Catholic, and Easter was a big time in the family, and there was a lot of grandkids. So they used to do these things with these chocolate bunnies, and we used to line them up, on the table or whatever. Sometimes it'd be 14, 15 chocolate bunnies, and everybody would have theirs there, right? And they look pretty in the box. And you go down the line, and you'd see the one that was missing the head. So they said, "Oh, that's Robert's," because they knew that I couldn't control myself, that as soon as I got the chocolate, I had to dive into it. So I was always looking to get some sort of pleasure. I was always looking to get my goodies as quickly as I can, because I was felt like everything was in such a critical mess all the time that I had to grab what I could when I could. So, and that's what set me up to be um, alcoholic. I was alcoholic for quite a while. Um,
Mm.
I started using hallucinogenics when I was about 15 years old. I had my first drink when I was 13, and I had to drink out of peer pressure, but I learned how to handle the pressure well. I was born, how could I say? I should say I was raised at that time, like 13, 14, 15, in a very diverse neighborhood. I actually went to a very good high school, but I just couldn't get any traction. I was on a football team, and it's like I couldn't find the motivation. I made the team only because I think I had some raw talent, not by my desire to be a good player.
Right.
So my mind was always someplace else, and I was always looking for where I could get my pleasure, or my mind was going in many different directions at the same time.
Mm.
So my drug use, and I have to say my drinking wasn't so bad at that time. But what happened at age 15, there was a big shakeup when my stepfather had to go to a mental institution, and the police had come, and my aunt and my uncle were staying over at the house. So it's my uncle by blood and my aunt by marriage, and I was incested at age 15 by my uncle's wife, and I was taken hostage in that relationship. Although the sexual portion of that relationship definitely fed into my obsessive compulsive disorder. That's why I told you about the chocolate bunnies. So she
Yes.
became basically my chocolate bunny, so to speak.
Oh.
I dropped out of school. I was totally sexualized, and I lost all sense of who I was, and was living a shame based existence. So, what did I do?
Oh.
Um, Here it was, I ended up living with her. She divorced my uncle, and I'm living with my uncle's wife and their two
Oh.
kids. And so the kids, they didn't know if they should call me Bobby, or if they should call me Daddy, or they should call me some other kind of expletive
Oh
deletive. You know
no.
what I mean? So it was
Oh.
one of those situations. Here it is. This one was 7 years older than me, and so I was definitely living a life that was very, very confused. I had my first nervous breakdown when I was 22, and I was hospitalized for 8 weeks. Um, and there was no end to my going round and round with mental health problems.
Mm.
And one of the things I'd have to say, that I remember from a very early age, was the fact is that there was a lot of self-hatred and a lot of self-loathing. I used to get
Mhm.
so frustrated. I used to stand in front of the mirror and punch myself in the face until I started crying, and I couldn't take the
Oh.
pain anymore. So
Oh.
that's the amount of self-hate that I had. So
Oh.
accelerating things to somewhere around the early 1980s, I was able to get myself. I was doing auto mechanics as a job that was basically my vocation, and I had a chance to operate a gasoline service station business under contract with a guy who had a number of service stations, and I got involved in that business, and it was a cash business, and during the 80s was that white powder called cocaine, and that overtook my life. I was a
Mhm.
phenomenal business person, believe it, in my mid 20s, and I made a lot of money, and I had a very good clientele, but the money went into the safe, and at the end of the day, the safe got opened, and it was party time. And
Oh.
lo and behold, I ran the business into the ground, and I developed people trouble to the point where there was a silver bullet with my name on it in my neighborhood, and I had to escape. So I
Oh,
ran up
shoot.
to the mountains, and I lived in a cabin that my grandmother left me, and that's when I found recovery. 1986, I had two DWIs, one on July 2nd and one on August 2nd. So I went through the court system and they said, okay, you're either going to go to jail or you can go to rehab. So, of course, I took the easy way out and I went to rehab thinking that I'm going to beat this thing.
Yep.
So I stayed sober for a while, and then along the way, what did I do? I met another woman who kind of like filled that broken hole that was inside of me, which I come to find out through therapy was due to the abandonment of my mom, and
Yep.
that's where that whole thing had started. So I was in
Wow.
treatment for about 9 months. I was released to a halfway house, and then I was basically drifting around on my own. Um, I ended up going to between 1986 and 1992. I was in 4 alcohol and drug rehabs and had 3 hospitalizations for mental health dysregulation while I was so quote unquote sober. And when in one of the rehabs, believe it or not, I was sexualized by my female therapist and ended up living with her. So it
Oh
goes
my
to show
goodness.
you like the patterns just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. So
Wow.
yeah. So then at that time, I moved back to New York City, and everything was going okay for a while, and then I started on my spiritual journey. 1988, uh, I got involved with a Tao Buddhist temple, and I started exploring my spirituality. I became vegetarian, and I started to understand that there was the only way that I was going to find my way out of my misery was through a spiritual practice. So I started doing that, and then for a while I was clean and sober, but then I was smoking pot again. And so,
Mhm.
like, what was it? I was thinking that my meditation was such a phenomenal experience when I was high on pot, and it did nothing for me. So
Oh
I
no.
was going through the motions, and the only person that I fooled was myself.
Right.
And that went on for quite a few years. I met this wonderful woman. I'd been a womanizer, and I got myself in all sorts of, from what I've told you in this story, that I got myself involved in a lot of intimate relationships that were really addictive or
Mhm.
shame based or whatever. But this woman came up to me in the temple, and she says to me, "What is your name?" And that's when it started. And it felt like she grabbed me by my ear and dragged me away and says, "I got a message, and it came from an angel, and it says that I'm supposed to come here and help you." So we went through a relationship. We're now together, married 22 years. I have a 24-year-old daughter from that marriage. We're living in Raleigh, North Carolina. We've been here for about 3 years. But there was a period of time that in when the crash happened in 208 and 209, we were living in Connecticut, and I had moved into the carpentry line of work. And what happened was that everything crashed, and I says, "Well, I'm tired of, like, being living in the United States and having, the economy crash." It just felt like I couldn't find any footing. I felt like I was out of place. So my wife's sister had this farm down in Colombia, South America. My wife's Colombian. So in 2009, we packed up our stuff and moved down there. I came back to New York City in 2014, and she stayed down there for family reasons and some other legal stuff that she needed to take care of. And she joined me a bit later on, somewhere around 2020, 21. But what happened when I came back to New York, I was doing well, and I found myself back in my spiritual practice. But then another trigger in my life was my family of origin on my father's side. See, my father, when I was 16, he passed away, but I never knew my father as a kid. And that's when I met my father's side. I met all my cousins, my uncles, and everything, my grandmother on my father's side of the family. Through all of my travels and everything, we got separated. When I went back to New York in 2014, somehow they found me in early 2015. And then the drinking and the pot smoking and everything started all over again. And then I hit the
Mhm.
wall. So I was sharing an apartment with some guy, and then, like, I had my own room, And just to tell you how bad my drinking had gotten and how shameful I felt, we had this sofa that was in my room. It was about 6 foot, normal size sofa. And I was so ashamed to bring my empty wine bottles down to the garbage because they'd be clanking, and I didn't want anybody to see me bringing my bottles to the garbage. I used to wrap them in these big, heavy paper bags and tape them tight so I would be able to sneak them out of the apartment. So I was living a shame-based existence. My
Oh,
marijuana use took off. By this time, I was doing security work in New York City in an office building, and my life went totally down into the hole. My wife and my daughter were living in South America, and here I was in New York, thinking I was like living the life again. But I didn't realize that I was slowly but surely I was dying.
right.
So when it got to the point, I says, okay, if I'm living like this, then why do I want to continue living? So I want to tell you that this is a story of the triumph of the human spirit. September 6th of 2018, I tried to commit suicide. I was taken to the hospital, and then I immediately, within 2 weeks, I made my way into treatment. And here's where the miracle started to manifest. I was seeing a therapist, and she started doing some inner child work with me. So I was able to revisit who little Robert was and start to embrace him and to love him and to break down the barriers to who I really was, and started to
Mhm.
develop that self love and compassion. And
Right.
spirituality opened the door for me to embrace self compassion so I could discover resilience. And I'd have to say that sentence right there kind of just sums up who I am in my life and where I'm going at the present time. So during that process, I went to a lot of AA meetings. I went to ACOA meetings, which is Adult Children of Alcoholics, and really
Mhm.
started to investigate my inner child. And I really started to love me. And the days of me punching myself in the face were over. And I really actually learned how to hug myself in the mirror and say, Robert, I love you. And the first
Oh,
time I did that, I broke down in tears and couldn't realize that I was at this point in time and I was given the grace of self love. So after, as things move along in 2020, my wife and my daughter made it back to the states, and we were reunited. So a lot of other details there, but I'll keep it short. We were reunited, and in 2020 was when I decided that since I was given all of this unbelievable help and they helped me recover from my alcoholism, I've been clean and sober and suicide attempt free. On September 6th, will be 6 years. So
oh,
there's
wow.
some sort of a celebration, that's happening, and I'm trying not to look at the calendar because my ego could get too big and think who I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So I started in 2020, and I got certified as a mindfulness meditation instructor. I'm a resilience practitioner level 2, which means I could teach people how to incorporate resilience techniques into their own lives. I found the art of transformational coaching because the other coaching courses that I had taken were addressing more like business and relationships and those kinds of things. I wanted
Mhm.
something that was more transformationally based, so I got myself involved in that. So
Good.
lo and behold, I was doing my studies and was living in Florida for a while, and then I ended up moving to North Carolina. So here now, listen to this. 2018, I wanted to take my own life. In November of 2022, when I was on my work on the night shift, I had a near fatal car accident. So to take a look at life and to understand when I was that what I felt was such a, how could I say, uh, such an insignificant thing to be able to throw my life away. Here it was as I started to get stable, embrace my family, and really love the place where I'm living. My life was almost taken from me. So it was a wake up call because I think that there was something that was going on inside of me. I didn't really do the level of work that needed to be done. So it was a recommitment to my recovery, and there was more spiritual work that needed to be done. I experienced the dark night of the soul in 2019, and I also experienced it in late 2023. And I felt like there was nothing in my life. I hit a flat point. Now, when I had the car wreck, I was ready to get certified as a trauma recovery coach. That's my vocation. That's my calling. That's my God essence that wants to reach out to other people to tell others there is a spark in every human being that if we can find our way through and tap that spark, that you can find some redeeming value in your own life, no matter what condition you're in. Because at the bottom of my drinking back in the 80s, I was drinking 2 liters of 80 proof vodka a day. And when I had my crash in 2018, I was drinking 2 magnums of like 13 to 15% alcohol red wine. So, and then smoking pot like crazy. And I pulled myself out of that. So I live now with an attitude of trying to elevate myself to the point of being a true advocate for humanity. I have an LLC that I set up, and I'm trying to get myself established as a trauma recovery coach. That's where I met the beautiful Gina. She was in one of the supervision courses, and another fellow who I only know for a short time. His name is Jeremiah, and I say this. I heard one time a long time ago that angels come in all shapes and sizes, and I'd have to say that my new friend Jeremiah is an angel that landed in my life. And we spent phenomenal sessions. He's become my accountability coach, and he's helping me through some of the rough spots that I'm still having. This disease that I have wants me dead. It's going to try to take every way to get to blindside me, to pull the carpet out from underneath me, to develop a black hole that I can fall into. But I'm
Right.
surrounding myself with good people, and I know it's only through service that I'm going to be able to have a life uh, with continued recovery, some level of sanity now. At 70 years old, I think I have
Mhm.
finally discovered myself. Now I just hope I can
Oh,
keep my body strong enough so I can capitalize on what I've learned. So my name is Robert. I'm an advocate for humanity, and I hope you can get some how could I say, take some essence or some substance from me revealing who I am. I'm honored to be in the face of all of you, and this has been a wonderful experience for me. So Gina, it's on you now.
thank you. Wow. It's interesting, like when you meet somebody, and then when you really meet somebody and really listen to their story and how impactful it is. And as I'm listening to that story, there was things in your story that resonated with things in my own life. Um, and so it's so hard to hear it. But the reality is the more that we share, the more that we can, I don't want to say get comfortable, but the more that we can get comfortable in sharing, the more that we can be the light. I always say we are the voice. That's a portion of my business. We are the voice. We are the voice for trauma survivors that don't have a voice yet. And so by sharing and by listening, or by having all of the audience and everybody listening to these stories, it's what helps them build hope and gives them that inspiration, that hope, that empowerment, that hopefully they'll take what we're saying. Not only does it welcome them into the life of a trauma survivor, but hopefully it gives them more tools and resources, or something resonates with them to say, hey, you know what? Robert's story resonated with me. You know what? Maybe this is what I need to do. I've had a couple people that have reached out and said, because of your YouTubes, and because of the guests that you have had on, um, I have finally realized I needed to get help, and I have gone and gotten help. And so it warms my heart when I get messages like that, because it makes me realize that what I'm doing is working, and what we're doing collectively is working. because there was a time that honestly that I did this and I was like, really, I don't even know if this is working. I mean, we can be professionals, we can be goofballs because that's who we are. I come on here and, with guests and yeah, we are very professional, but I want it to be laid back. I want to be low key and laid back. And so bring in, some of the laughing and things like that too. But, when we know when to be serious. And, but when I started receiving emails and messages that people were, because of our channel, people were going and getting help and stuff, that really resonated. And I was like, okay, what I'm doing is really working. And there's a purpose for doing this. And so thank you for being on here and sharing and things like that. I mean, we're not done yet, but thank you for being on here and sharing and just being very transparent and vulnerable in the situation of showing everybody exactly what it was like to be in your shoes.
Yeah, if I could add something, thank you.
Sure.
The thing of voice and choice, and give people their agency, right? Give people their autonomy. Allow them to have a way that they can structure their own life from their inner essence. And for me, that was the greatest crime that was committed upon me, was the fact that I wasn't able to express myself. My voice and my choice were taken away from me at a very early age. So the rage came in, and what did I do? If people on the outside of me didn't love me, man, there must be something wrong with me. I really don't understand this. Why am
Right.
I feeling this way? And I was so loving and so giving, to people, that I couldn't understand, why I felt so uncomfortable. If I could tell you another quick story. It's a
Sure.
story that I call the pencils. My stepfather used to work in the meat market business on the north side of Brooklyn, and he used to deliver meat to all different markets and butcher shops and stuff like that. First of all, you'd be surprised how much of that meat fell off the back of the truck right into our freezer. When you open the freezer and the light is there, you couldn't even see the light. We were eating skirt steak when people in my neighborhood were having hot dogs and beans. But I want to tell you something. It didn't
Oh,
matter what this man put on the table,
yep.
because when he came to sit at the table, it felt like it was time that you were in the gulag. You know what I mean? That you
Oh,
were in some sort of concentration camp. I used to sit at the table and wrap my feet around the legs of the chair because I felt like I needed to be grounded, that my legs and my feet used to hurt, but I was so tense, I didn't know what to do.
mm,
Um,
oh,
so they used to get all of these pencils, like these advertising pencils, right?
yep.
And he brought them home, and I would go to school, right? 7, 6, 7, 8 years old. And I'd see these kids in my class, like, writing with a little, and I got like 6 pencils, 8 pencils in my pencil case with, you know, nice points on them, really long, right? Nice erasers and the whole thing. So I would give a pencil to this one or that one or this one. And I go home, and then my mom would see, when I was doing my homework, that I had these little stubs of pencils. She says, "What are you doing with these stubs of pencils?" I says, "Well, this one needed a pencil, that one needed." I got so, like, I got chastised for giving away these pencils. And my
Oh,
stepfather had them in this box. He had all these pencils in the box. Here's the kicker. He didn't want me to give the pencils to anybody because he needed to grab onto these things and not give anything to anybody. So that's how he was in the family, and that's how he treated people. And
mm,
he was like grabbing onto things. I'm sure that he's had his own mental health problems, and I've
mm,
had to go to my God to get right with that after he passed away. And I had to forgive him. And I had experiences on the spiritual side where we reconciled after he left the body. All right. So I got that stuff together with him. But what happened when he first died? My brother invited me over to the house that they were living in, and he says, "Oh, look through the closets in the basement. If there's anything you want, before I call Goodwill or Salvation Army, and take what you want." Wouldn't you know, I come across the box, and it was full of pencils. So what do we do in life? We hold on to the things, we hold on to our gifts, we hold on to the little things that could promote beauty or bring somebody else comfort, or some sort of pleasure in their life. And what do? We withhold, and we turn our shoulder, and we walk away. I think
Right.
that it's more evident in this time on the planet now than ever what we need to be to each other, and how we need to love each other and integrate whatever we feel on the inside that's good. We need to share with the people that are around us, because we all know all the turmoil that's taken place. So I believe that if anybody's on this YouTube thing, you must have some inkling that there's a better way to live life, and you're looking for an outlet for that, or maybe to learn something so you can be more proactive, and in your own way advocate for happiness and love. So it's a shame, when people do stuff like my stepfather did. But the thing is that, there's a big lesson to be learned from those things.
Absolutely. Wow. There was a lot in just that, absolutely, in that pencil story, there was a lot. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's
that's a
amazing.
good, yeah, it's a good story to share because, yeah, I mean, it really puts things into a different perspective. And so I kinda had to giggle why I started laughing when you were talking about the meat and all that stuff is because my dad worked at the fish pier and all that, and so, it was kind of when you said, like, other people in the neighborhood were probably eating beans and hot dogs, and, it was kind of the same thing, but, kind of, you know, probably the same thing like at our table too. But yeah, when my dad worked at the fish pier, we had fish and we lived high off the hog. It was all fish and lobster and scallops and whatever else you could think of. And now I'm like, oh, I don't even. I like seafood, but now I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat fish no more. Uh, but I can relate to a lot of the like a lot of the tenseness and a lot of the different things. And I see it as I get older. My body is very sore. And I would have never made the connection had I not gone through the trauma recovery and a lot of the things that um, a lot of the certifications and the education that that we've gone through and things like that. And so I've realized that living in a tense state, and so I've caught myself being mindful. And I love that you do the mindful meditation because I've caught myself. I'll be in here
Mm.
working and I can feel my shoulders really tense. And all of a sudden it'll come to my like it'll come to my head and say, Jeannie, you just need to relax. And so I'm like, what do you mean relax? And then I'll realize, oh my goodness, like my shoulders are clear up in my ears. And a lot of people don't realize um, how childhood trauma, how it affects us as we sit um, in those protection mode and the survival mode. But it's protection when we're in those tense states because we never know when the next threat's coming, or we feel like we're in danger. And so as you grow and I always look at it this way. It's like your muscles and your nerves and all that are so constricted that as you start to come out, they start to kind of loosen, but they can't. So as you're growing and you're adapting and you're trying to recover, all of that stays like this. And so I've learned that that's why my body is very, very sore. And so and I stay tense all the time. And I was like, yeah, I got to stop this. So um, yeah. And so people don't realize those types of things.
Mm. Sometimes I do find my feet wrapped around the legs of the chair. And I even realize that sometimes I'll be sitting in the car when I'm waiting for my wife in the market, that my leg will be banked up against the console, and I'm starting to feel this discomfort, and I'm saying, well, what's going on with you? So those automatic responses, or that stuff that's so subliminal. Um, but one thing back on the mindful thing, since I've been here in North Carolina, I've been able to cultivate a garden. And this year I've had some unbelievable wildflowers. The heat really it took the life out of them really early in the season. But the amount of birds I had 4 bird feeders out there, and my
Oh,
greatest pleasure is to get up in the morning and look at all the different birds, in the bird feeders, and hummingbirds and sunflowers and these flowers and the bees and all this other kind of stuff, and
right.
to watch what's going on, and to see the essence of life just happening in front of me, and understanding from planting a seed in the ground, the beauty that comes from that. So, what
Oh,
I
yeah.
try to do is remind myself that I need to constantly cultivate my soil and try to keep mindful of the seeds that I've planted. So,
Mm.
yeah,
Ooh, that's powerful. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I always tell people if you can just sit and just rest in nature, rest in seeing, um, and rest in so many things. And so many of us don't rest. We're always on the go, 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 go. And if you can just sit like you're doing and look at everything that you're doing, and garden wise, you're able to watch the birds, the bees, you're able to see everything that's taken place, from seed all the way up. And I love that because another analogy that's amazing is on the side of our house, I used to have lilies. I have daylilies and tiger lilies, and I ended up ripping them all out because they were like taken all over. So
mm,
they were all over the place. So I took a picture, I posted on my Facebook because it was a perfect analogy, and I could use the analogy um, of two different things here. So the lily was growing; it was beautiful. Well, right next to it was an ugly weed. And so I don't know if it was the lily that died. I don't even know. But all I know is it was the lily that was beautiful. And then next to it was, we'll just say the lily that was ugly and died. And so I took a picture, and all of a sudden God said to me, um, that's the life. When you have Jesus, you're going to be that beautiful tiger lily. But when you don't, you're going to be this, I don't want to say ugly, but you're going to be this dark. We're just going to say dark. You're going to be this dark, um, flower or plant or whatever, weed, and you're not going to have any life. The life is going to be sucked out of you. So, well, it was, well, maybe it was the surprise lily. Probably was. My husband's like, probably the surprise lily. That's probably what it was. Yeah, surprised, all right. So, anyway, it was just interesting to see the analogy. So then the other analogy I used is that when we are trauma survivors, we are like that just say that dark weed, that dark lily. But when we start healing and we start getting on this healing journey, we start prospering and we start, I don't want to say letting go, but we start we start to learn to transform ourselves through the education and everything that we've learned. And then we become that beautiful tiger lily. And so it's a beautiful analogy to let people know that you may be here, but it's temporary. You can shift into here. And that's what people need to understand. You don't have to stay put. You can shift.
yeah,
Again, why we do that.
yes, the realization of each person's potential,
Absolutely.
and there's from my practice and my perspective, I know that there's a shift that's taking place in the planetary setup. What's happening in, like, what people lightly refer to as the heavens, but the astrology that's taking place and how the planets are lining up, and the energies that are coming onto the earth, into our environment, is to create change. And if anybody wants to try to create that in their personal life, now is the perfect time, because it's become more available. They talk about the veil between this side and the other side. Well,
Yeah.
from what I've been told, is that veil right now is very thin. So if you're looking to get it together, you know, um, you need to be, people need to be connected, like people like you and I, Gina. Those are
Yes.
those that are willing to put it out there. And I see that Jeremiah put something in the chat. We are eternal students, forever learning. We are here to heal, grow as wounded healers, help others find their way to healing as well. Thank you,
Yes.
my brother. That's beautiful. I appreciate the validation. Yes, thank you.
Mhm. And it is. And that's exactly why we do what we do. So, yep. And going back to the birds, because I love being outside. You know, a lot of people don't realize, but ecotherapy and is part of, and it's a part of recreational therapy. I mean, I guess they can kind of go hand in hand, but it's being outside. It's outside because, you know, the trees, the grass, the flowers, they all have grounding principles. And so it's amazing that, you know, a lot of people, that's what I always tell my clients too. You know what, if you can get outside, take your shoes off, you know, if you don't want to walk the grass, that's fine, but just stand there in the grass for just a couple minutes. Listen, listen to the birds chirp. What are you hearing? Are you hearing the trees? What are you hearing? Bees buzzing? Because they don't realize, but and you can attest to this, but that's what starts building that mindfulness. It's little things like that that people don't understand. It's small things like that that turn into huge changes.
Well, the energy flows from the top to the bottom. So the thing is that if we don't complete that circuit, if we don't get grounded, there's less of an opportunity for that energy to come through us and to affect the systems in the body. So,
Right.
and you know, the connection of mind and body these days, and the benefits of realizing that and working with that are more obvious now than they've ever been.
Absolutely. Yep. That's why I said that's why we do this, because I want people to be educated and understand what, you know, what's out there, what's coming, what we've tried, what maybe doesn't work for us may work for them, or vice versa, and things like that too. So and stuff. So do you want to transition for a minute and talk about the conference?
Sure.
Do you want to share a little bit about what you'll be doing? Our conference is 2 days. It's October 25th and 26th. It's global, so it's all online. And so do you want to share a little bit about what you'll be doing?
Well, my biggest thing is, and thank you for that, Gina, is mindful meditation. And everything the way I see it, especially in my recovery and my self elevation, it is being mindful. So what I'll be doing is teaching for an hour and a half, the basic principles of mindfulness and meditation to understand like the technical side of it, and then we'll be doing some interactions and doing some mindful practice and some meditation practice. So the thing is that to do a good meditation you need to be mindful. So although meditation has you bring your mind to a point of neutrality, but the thing is that you want to come to neutrality. So then when you finish a meditative session, you're more in tune to the things that you can do in your environment. And there's ways to apply mindfulness, like even when you're washing the dishes. If you're paying attention to the way the water comes out of the faucet and how you use the rag or the soap and the sponge, you know, and how you clean the stuff, and the sounds of the plates and the pots and pans clinking on each other, you know. So um, it's all of these little things that we can get in touch with that takes us out of ourself, but then really on the other side of it, it connects ourselves to everything that's there. So there is this constant loop that's taking place, this constant experience of awareness. And I think for me, especially with my recovery, that's the one thing I had to really keep up front, is the fact that I need to stay aware at all times. So,
Yes, that's very important. Yes. Not just for you, but for all of us.
well, that's a
Yeah.
general idea. You know,
Yep.
there's
Yep.
a lot of people on the planet, and we need to be mindful of each other.
Yes. Yes. We do. We do. And stuff. So yeah, so I'm very excited to, you know, to have you. Jeremiah is going to be speaking. So now we have, there's 12. I was thinking there's 12 speakers, but now I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, I don't have my notes, but there's 3 keynote speakers, 12 speakers. I think there's 27 breakout. I don't have my notes, but I think it's 27 breakout and workshop sessions over 2 days. CEs are being offered, so it's very exciting to be able to bring something like this. You know, I've tried to research a lot of things, and there are other conferences. Obviously, there's other ones and things like that too. But as I was researching, you know, the things that I was doing. Ours is the only conference where I think everybody speaking is a trauma survivor.
Yeah, and
Which
from
is huge.
from what I understand, you're connected with Dr. Belton, Dr.
Yes,
J, right?
yes, yes,
And the Global Trauma Institute,
yes,
which is a very progressive organization that's providing training and direction for people who want to be involved in the world of trauma healing, and to help other people through coaching and mentoring. So that's another big deal that we're collaborating with, and we're partnering up with other great minds that are looking to have an impact on the greater population. So the global outreach of this thing is really phenomenal, and there will be some very profound teachings that are going to take place. So
yes.
I'm looking forward to it myself.
Thank you. Yes, yes, I am too. I have my work cut out for me. I have 3 speeches to write. I'm like, oh, I have to get on it because I'm a big procrastinator. I always tell myself like I'm a recovering perfectionist because perfection was really, I know it's shame. So my perfection, I would rewrite. I would have written like just say 5 or 6 pages and front and back, and if I would have got to like the middle of it and it would have been wrong, not that I would have rewritten any of the other pages, but if it was front and back and I was on the back of just say the 4th page and I was like, oh, yep, I wouldn't have marked it off. I would have literally rewrote the front and back of it until it was right. Now I'm just like, I don't care. I got scribbles all over everything. You should see all my stuff now. I'm like, it's fine. So I tell everybody I'm a recovering perfectionist, and it can be done, and I'm living proof. And so I'm gonna, make sure that I don't procrastinate because I know that's another trauma response too. Last time I kind of did at the other conference, and this one I will not, especially writing 3. Um, and so I have these ideas in my head, and God gives me all of these things, and so I've been jotting things down and things like that. So I just think it's going to be a wonderful experience for everybody. The first day is more going to be more of your education. There will be some workshop sessions, but the second day is going to be more of the hands-on. There will be some breakouts and stuff, but it's more of the hands-on and a lot of the different modalities that you can take back and practice yourself back into your practice. And things like that too. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited, very excited.
Well, you should be. You're posturing yourself for greatness.
Thank you. Yes, I'm trying. And I have a
Yeah.
great group of people. All of you guys, you, Jeremiah, Dr. J, everybody, all the speakers, it's amazing, have come together and really helped. And so like saying thank you to everybody. I mean, even here on the live, but even, in the groups and things like that, because it's like, I know that I couldn't do it without any of you. And so it's not even an I, it's a we. And I always use we. It's never been I, it's always been we. And so we're a team. We're in this together. And so it's not even about me, it's about us making a difference in the lives of other people and the guests that attend. So I'm excited. I'm really excited, and I know it's going to happen. It's going to be here before we know it. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I really got to get on this.
Yeah. Yeah. The days do go by quickly. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, they will. Does anybody have any questions for Robert or I? You guys feel free to put them in the chat. And if you have any questions for either one of us, any questions about anything that he shared or anything, you're more than welcome. Put them in there. So do you so you're currently seeing clients now, or are you just kind of getting established?
Well, actually, what happened from the car wreck in November of 22, I've been recovering from a traumatic brain injury, and
Oh man.
it's only been about 2 months that I've been off the medication. So therefore,
Oh,
now I'm going back, and the GTI situation, came along so I can finish up my certification work, so I can
okay.
get my studies finished for that, and get my certificate that I've been so long waiting to have that accomplishment and that recognition. And then when I went into that forum, that's when I met you, and I met Jeremiah. So I've been waiting. Well, I wouldn't say I lost 18 months, but my movement into my vocation has been kind of detoured for a little bit for the last 18 months. So I'm
Mm,
finally, my brain is working. I think for 7 years old as well. I think as it's going to be.
yes.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to come here and speak. Um, so thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, you are, yeah, absolutely. Yes. So I'm glad that you're on the road to recovery and, and things like
Yeah.
that too. And just got to put one foot in front of the other and you will get that, get that certification finished and that'll be a good accomplishment, especially you've been waiting and things like that too, but that'll be a huge accomplishment for you.
And now I'm reestablishing a networking group, and
Good.
I'm amongst a group of people that have a different attitude than I was involved with before. So it's
Yeah.
there's no coincidence. I mean, who I'm with and what I'm doing now is definitely by divine design. So
It's
no
amazing.
longer any
It's amazing.
questions.
No.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. It really is amazing. It's amazing when, we'll wrap up here in a minute, but it's just amazing that when you know. And we literally just talked about that in church on, kind of on Sunday. It was, what's your calling? Like, do you dread what you do? And I was like, oh my goodness, no, I absolutely, I kind of love what I do. I love helping other people, but I love the role that I'm stuck. It sucks that we went through the things that we had to go through. Um, but I love what I do, and I can truly say that I do love what I do. And so it just goes back, when and it's not even a job. Like I just enjoy doing this. So as a lot of others, you have to have a heart for this. You just
absolutely.
yeah, I don't think just anybody. So Sly has a question. He asked, "What is your inspiration to do what you do?"
Because I know if people engage in the practices that I did, that they can accomplish the success that I have. And to watch people when they start to wake up and they start to understand um, that the tools are available. So I'm inspired to know that I can touch people and make their lives better, and have people become self-empowered, so they can have that voice and choice, so they can have that agency, so they can have that autonomy, and be able to walk through life at the pace that they decide, and
Yeah.
not be ruled by which way the wind blows. So
Yes. That's amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. 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 You're an amazing man.
Well,
Wow.
I think that I've been given this, like you said, what we went through. There's a reason for that. So the thing is that I need to use these experiences and not waste the opportunities that I have in front of me now. So
Yes.
it's there are the days when um, the drive or the discipline to do what needs to be done kind of wanes,
Yes.
because feels like, okay, I'm starting over again. But when I every time that I've started over again, there's been a different set of circumstances that makes me realize that that restart is absolutely necessary.
Yes. 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 And it is. And it's just what we keep we even it doesn't matter. We just have to continue, and that's the thing. I always say I still call myself a beautiful flawed warrior. And I would always tell people, no matter how many times I get knocked down, I'm going to rise again. And so that's why I went and I got a tattoo that says still I rise.
Yes.
Because and I will. I will always rise. It doesn't matter, but we have to on the things
So
that we're
I'd
doing.
like to add to that, and I like to say, as long as I'm stumbling in the right direction, I'm okay.
Absolutely. Well, yes, I was going to say you could stumble, you can roll, you can leap, whatever you want to
Right, but
do.
as long as it's in
But
the right direction,
yep,
that's all.
yep,
Don't matter.
yep,
Yep,
yep. And that's
yep.
why I said it's baby steps in the right direction and things like that, and realize that we have our good days and bad days, but it's looking and saying, you know what, okay, this happened. How can I make a difference or how can I change? But I'm still going in the right direction, and things like that. And I think some people just think everything has to be perfect, and it doesn't. As long as you, like you just said, um, as long as you're moving in the right direction, that's all that matters. Just keep moving. So that reminds me of that um, Finding Nemo. Sorry, I get these things like I think I have ADD. I'm self-diagnosing, but now all I can think of is Finding Nemo when Dory's like, just keep moving, or whatever she says. That's what's going in my head. So that's just my brain for you. It's funny
Okay.
because somebody will say something and then all of a sudden I'll start singing lyrics to a song because they have said something that all of a sudden a song pops in my head. I'm like, yeah, see. So I tell people I got ADD. So yes. So yeah. But thank you, Robert, for being here and for sharing your story and what you're doing at the conference and things like that. I really appreciate you for being that light and the light for other men. See, it just keeps swimming. Well, I just said moving. She's like, it's swimming. See, I knew it was something, but I just said, just keep moving, just keep moving. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing, right? Swimming, moving, you're still going in the right direction, whatever direction it is. See, I didn't say I had it right. I just was saying like, that's what was coming in my mind. So anyway, sorry. But yes, for, again, for being here and sharing and just really making an impact, being the voice, of the small percentage of men that are speaking out. And so I'm so proud of you. I was, Jeremiah, and for my husband for speaking out and things like that too. And I hope, that you'll continue to speak out and share a portion of your story or the whole story so more people can hear it. And I just feel like it's very important. The people that we're reaching, especially men. I'm huge about men's mental health as well as women's, but I know the stigma around men. So, that's why I want to get more men. So on here and sharing and kind of giving what they're doing and things like that, exactly what, you're doing and stuff like that too. So I really appreciate you for taking your time out and being here again. I know that I'll see you in some of the bridge programs and definitely at the conference and chat wherever else I see you, because I know that I will see you more, not just here this evening. So I just want to again say thank you. Thank you everybody that is here this evening. We really appreciate you. This is where you can find Robert and I. Like I said, we'll be speaking in October at the Trauma and Mental Health Summit. You can go to wearethevoice.org for more info to list all the speakers, exactly what topics and descriptions that everybody is speaking on. And then tickets are there. We're offering non-CEs and CEs that will be there as well. So thank you, Jeremiah, for being here as well as everybody else. Next week, I always say, oh, who's going to be on next week? But I got to cheat and look at my notes because I got to look and see. Let me see. I don't even know. I might not even have anybody on next week. Oh, yeah, my calendar's blank. So I will get that filled. I do have somebody. I just haven't got it in there. I believe it'll be his name by another gentleman. Here we go. Mike. He does a lot of inner child work. So he will be our guest next week. And so, he's phenomenal when it comes to the inner child work and things like that too. So it'll be nice to have him on here. So I like that I'm getting more men. I like this. And then what we'll do is just so you know, is after Mike, what I will do is we will start doing more of the speakers on. So Monday nights will be maybe one or two of the speakers transitioning up until we get up to the conference, because I think it's good for everybody to understand why we're doing this, what we're doing, what the speakers are doing, what they're going to be educating about, what is their workshop, what types of hands-on experiences are they going to be demonstrating for you, and things like that too. And I think it's really important for all of you to understand exactly why we're doing the conference and what it's all about, and and things like that. It's not for us, it's for you. And so I think that's really important to do that as well. So you will see Robert again, because I'll have him back on here again, and you'll see Jeremiah again. You'll see myself. I'll be on here with everybody else here coming up pretty soon, and we'll do that leading up to the conference, and that way there kind of give you a glimpse into what we're doing, why we're doing it, and things like that. So yeah. But good night, everyone. And again, it's wearethevoice.org for information and tickets. And any questions, just look, you can find my email. So I just want to say again, thank you, Robert, for being here. Thank you, everybody else. And we will see you next Monday. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Gina. Take care of you well. Thank you. Good night.